We're up bright and early. Good morning and welcome to your perfect day starter. I'm Kayode Okikilo and this is a morning brief.
And we're live for you here in Lagos. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
So we now have 5 days to Christmas. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
I feel attacked this morning. Just riding to work, the Harmattan attacked me. It was the Harmattan was all out for me this morning, and it just shows that the weather is getting thicker. I guess the plot thickens with Harmattan this season. But let us know what we're in for, and this is a message to Harmattan: is this going to be consistent, or it's a one-off? So we prepare. Some days you dress for the cold, and you realize that the temperature is 30-something, so you have to tone it down. Some days you're not prepared at all, and you realize that the temperature is 19, 20. So this is a very passionate appeal to Harmattan. Stay one place, as they say in local parlance. So if you're about to go out, this is your heads up. It is quite cold out there, particularly if you're in Lagos. I imagine for the northern part of the country, it's even much more cold in those areas. So please prepare for the weather because it is quite cold this morning.
So that's the story you're tracking this morning?
That's the story I'm tracking, come on.
Yeah, I didn't recognize my voice when I woke up this morning. Right. Yeah, I felt attacked also by the Harmattan. It's actually snowing Harmattan, and visibility is quite
Which
poor.
part of the snow is that?
It's snowing Harmattan.
Figure of speech, man.
Yeah, figure of speech.
I wanted you to contextualize it.
Yeah, indeed, Jeffrey. And visibility is even poorer because of the Harmattan.
Yeah.
So if you're setting out early, you may want to drive pretty carefully, just to give consideration to other road users, and of course set out early if you must get to your destination in good time. So one of those caution tips as you're setting out amid the weather. How long will this last? We do not know, but not very long. I assume before you know it, the weather changes again. The weather is increasingly becoming unpredictable, particularly since we began to experience extreme weather conditions in the advent of the climate change season. But that's not all we're tracking for you. Jeffrey, what else are we tracking?
Well, it has nothing to do with Harmattan. We just get used to it. This is a ritual every other year, just that Harmattan is a bit selective this year. It chooses when it comes and goes. Mine is what I've been observing, and I used to disagree with my wife on this. It has to do with who is more careless walking around or crossing the road. I think I now begin to agree with my wife that men are a bit more careless. Have you noticed?
I hope there's research and data.
Think about it. Start observing it today carefully. Now, Bukola is happy with this one because it's against men, by the way.
Dear.
I know you are happy. The way guys move across the road.
Bukola is not anti-men.
No, I'm not saying. But you see these guys, they want to cross. It feels like the car should move for them, rather than they move for the car, and all of that. So I've just started noticing between men and women that use pedestrians that use the road. Who is a bit more careful in crossing the road? Just watch, observe. If you've not observed it, this is based on my own observation. All right. Kayode is processing it.
I'm trying to process it. Again, we might need to do some proper,
do your own. I've done mine. This is me.
But this is what I can say, really. In some parts of the country, when women want to cross, they literally beg you, please. And so I can agree to that extent that women are quite careful. There's this joke that when market women want to cross, they literally greet you from the start to the end, like, thank you, please wait till I'm about to cross. So to that extent, I might agree, but I think men are quite, precise and very careful.
I'm saying men are more careless. I'm very emphatic. I'm not mincing my words. Comparatively.
Well, I have some strong views in that regard, but Jeffrey has already tagged me, so I'm going to plead the fifth here, even though pleading the fifth doesn't exist in Nigeria.
In other words,
but that's not all we're tracking.
You're not supporting it.
The 2025 budget has.
Bukola, wait, now we're not done with this disagreement. It's the truth. So the rule now is, as you start driving, start observing.
I will.
Observe critically how men and women use the road. Let me use another word. Use the road.
Okay. I will. Men be careful, women be careful as well. But Bukola, you didn't support me, but it's okay. Don't hold it against you.
I didn't support anyone. I didn't go against anyone. So the 2025 budget has scaled second reading at the National Assembly. So we're preparing for a budget that will begin implementation, hopefully, perhaps by January, and we have a complete budget cycle. We're going to be tracking all of that for you. Also, there's something interesting happening in the Federal Capital Territory. The land for some very important persons, some politically exposed persons, have been revoked by the administration in the FCT, and of course some other dignitaries have been warned, to pay up their fees, else their lands also will be revoked. So it's an interesting development there, and we're going to keep track of it. How will this impact on land administration and ownership in the Federal Capital Territory? How will those persons on that list, how will they react in the coming days? Quite an interesting development, gentlemen.
Just so Bukola is being conservative with our words. Muhammadu Buhari's land, Tajuddin Abbas's land, SGF, what's his name? George Akume's land, and some other prominent
former Senate President also.
Their lands have been revoked because they've not made payment at in C of O, and yes, on wiki is threatened that more
will go down
that way. So for clarity, and we also had this development in your state, and we're going to follow up on that. Yeah. But that very sad story. I feel bad whenever I talk about that story. 35 miners have been confirmed dead from that stampede in that party that turned painful this Yuletide. We're going to look at that as well on the program right here on the morning brief.
Okay. But what are we focusing on specifically this morning, Coyote?
Well, we've literally talked about them. So let's just reiterate. First, the budgets. We're dissecting the budget much more on the show this morning, focusing on allocations, and it's important to do those allocation focus. So we'll be focusing on allocations to vital sectors such as health, education, infrastructure, and defense, basically to examine how that budget addresses the issues that you face on a daily basis. As we always say, is your name on that budget? Well, that's something we'll be finding out this morning.
Of course, we'll touch on fashion today on the program, from passion to a fashion icon. We'll get to talk with someone who is really in that space and is trying to blaze the trail, as well as, PC Fix, that segment, where we get to talk with that gentleman who guides us on those little things that you need to do for your phones and your devices to enable you, get to work it so that it works more efficiently and effectively as far as your devices are concerned. Whether it's a laptop, a tab, a phone, GSM. I remember that name, GSM. That used to be a name, right?
Well, still
now it's
is,
mobile phone.
but used less often like before. But, those people that cause a dip in your pocket at this time of the season because, children run to you, Mommy, what are we wearing for Christmas? So we'll be talking with the fashion designers this morning and, touching on how business is at this point in time. Also, we'll be looking at other things. There's a young global advocate that is making waves as young as she is, creating content and being an ambassador for sustainable development. So we'll be talking with that girl that you may already know, and we'll be bringing inspiration to your own teenagers as a result of her own work.
All right, so we will take a quick break. But before that break, remember, we have our social media. X is the social media of choice. CTV Morning Brief is how you get to us so that we amplify your voice. Our WhatsApp number should be scrolling on the screen any moment from now so that you can send your videos and your messages, no phone calls, and we will do the best we can to amplify your voice. That's the key word we use right here. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you your stories. Join us again.
Through what is trending this morning. It's a Friday morning, right? So it's been a long week, and I think it's only proper to start with what some are describing as a Christmas gift from Dangote refineries, and that's the fact that petrol from Dangote Refinery Limited has been slashed to 899 naira 50 kobo. Some say it's just 900, but just to be precise, it's 899 naira 50 kobo
from
liter.
From where it was?
From what? It was 970. Oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
It was reduced to 970 at first.
Okay.
That was last month, I think. But now it's been said that it will be 899 naira 50 kobo.
Well, okay. Nigerians are not particularly excited because even now, petrol is being purchased for 1,040 naira per litre.
Right.
And this Christmas gift. Let's reiterate, it's only a Christmas gift.
So at the end of the day, so let's be clear.
January 2nd,
it doesn't mean you're going to go to Dangote Refinery and buy the fuel. This is wholesale price for those who are lifting from the refinery. So because when people hear this, they feel that I can go to Dangote doesn't have a refinery. The wholesaler.
It doesn't have a petrol station.
It doesn't have a petrol station. My apologies. I almost took away his refinery. There's a wholesale price, so the marketers will not add the margins, so it will be lesser than it. So we should be buying fuel lesser or less than 1,000 naira. This is what it should be. Should be.
If the marketers are getting it from Dangote Refinery.
Shaibu Sam says, we just hope that one day it will go back to 15 naira that we used to enjoy in those good old days. That's like ambitious 2025 budget of 15% inflation that would not happen.
Well, Abba Al-Khali says, that's a major news. Dangote cutting the petrol price to 899 naira. I must add 50 copper per liter. Could shake things up a bit. Even if people are a bit numb to small changes, this might still have some positive impact. For how long? That's the question.
Well, Paul Rodney captures this very interestingly, and it's a question. Is the slash price to the wholesalers or to the consumers? Goes on to say, if it's for the wholesalers, it does not change anything. Some of the wholesalers add theirs to sell to customers. It will still be on the very high side. So nothing has changed. This user believes, I had to do some editing there, but you get the sense of what Rodney is trying to say.
I did ask and says we'll get there, but I still believe this is the cheapest in the world, though I stand to be corrected. I don't like that comparison of cheap. I don't know, it just pisses me off.
It's rather annoying because you must also look at the other economic indicators in other parts of the world where petrol is reportedly cheaper than Nigeria before you begin to make comparisons. More often than not, the comparisons are inadequate.
But we have to understand that these things are international market prices, right? We talk about gold, for example. You don't say, how much is gold in Nigeria? You know how much a gold bar is. And that's how you now sell gold in Nigeria, even crude oil, right? The price is determined internationally. Then we now say, oh, in fact, that's what our budget estimate is based on, international price, not our own price, right? So to a large extent, I think it's fair to still do the comparisons. Now we can talk about, oh, we own this, so people should at least enjoy the benefit of owning this in that sense.
There's nothing wrong with the comparison. It's just, there's something called convenience cherry picking. You understand? So it's like a straw man's argument. Look for the worst to compare, to knock out your opponent. There's nothing wrong. In fact, that's how you evaluate whether you're doing well or you're doing wrong. It's where it pisses someone off is when it's always on the downside and you begin to compare. So let's begin to look at how other countries are cutting certain costs at the administrative level, and let's also cut it as much as that.
Let's talk about their minimum wage.
So precisely.
So let's make it holistic. That's the point.
And to make
it's not just looking at. That's why I call it convenient cherry picking.
Yeah. To make it holistic, in other parts of the world where petrol is reportedly cheaper sometimes than Nigeria, apart from all of this other indicators that you're talking about, when the price of crude oil goes down in the international market, petrol price goes down in those countries, but it never goes down in Nigeria. So it's important to emphasize that. So we might be asking the regulatory authorities why Nigeria is the exception to the rule in that regard.
Well, we will get there someday. Let's be hopeful, Let's just be hopeful just someday. But let's get to the issue of the organizers of the Oyo Christmas event that claimed multiple lives being arrested. That incident that occurred in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. We understand an ex-queen of the Oni of Ife was the sponsor of that particular event, but for whatever reason, there was a stampede and 35 minors lost their lives and others were injured. These are your reactions. The police has taken a couple of persons into custody, and these are your reactions. Tizo, you said those are not the only people that need to be arrested. Investigate and also arrest the people that started the stampede.
And Scholarly Daniel, I hope I got your name, says they're asking, why did they arrest organizers of the Ibadan Christmas giveaway party? I mean, what happened is not their fault. They're just organizers. Well, this is sentimental. You know, we must get to the bottom of the matter before we determine what exactly went wrong or not. Some people have to bear some form of responsibility. So away from sentiment.
Well, speaking of that, we'll be having some authorities speak on that on the show this morning to give you all of those angles and the updates. It's important to stay with that story. So stay with us right here on the morning brief. In just a few minutes, we'll bring you more updates. But let's continue with what you've been saying. Celestine Sunday has this post on X saying this is just a sign of the hardship in the country, as they had made plans for 5,000 kids and 7,500 showed up. This is just as the hardship is real. If things weren't this bad, some of those kids would have stayed back at home.
It's quite unfortunate. Our thoughts and our prayers are with those kids, and we hope that the authorities will get to the bottom of it, and those found culpable should be made to face the full wrath of the law. But let's move on now to other things that has to do with the forfeiture or final forfeiture of warehouses and containers that is linked to the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele. There's a lot going on with Emefiele, linking. Remember the seizure that was done by the EFCC. Also, people are saying it links to Emefiele. Oluwa Damilare says, I don't see Emefiele coming out of this mess anytime soon. It's difficult to believe that even if Emefiele did this, allegedly, he cannot be the only one in this loop. So maybe he's a poster boy for all of this. We do not know. Bukola and Kyrie.
Well, Kyrie, go ahead.
Well, the next one is this user,
Nathan.
Kwame. I see it says...
you skipped Nathan?
I thought you took Nathan already.
No, I took Oluwa Damilare.
I see. It says the way they are tactically retrieving his loot is recommended. I imagine you're saying commendable. By the time this case comes to an end, I don't think this man will have anything left worthy former CBN governor. Whatever the case is, the law should just be followed and ensure that things are done right. We don't want trials on media. Let the trial really happen in court and let the court do their jobs. If that happens, then I think a lot of people can say this case was handled very well.
And let's also presume his innocence until he's proven guilty before we continue to make conclusions. Nonetheless, the case is mind-boggling, the weight of properties that have been discovered and linked to this trial. Kwame says, seeing the current situation this man is at the moment, some people will still choose illegal money over good name. A lot to think about there.
So the other day I saw that the MBS came out to say their sites have been hacked. I know you're a technology man. How can MBS site? What are they actually looking for? I've been processing it.
I mean, I think taking control of a major website such as that is a big deal.
I know.
I mean, people hack personal websites, right? But I think it's a big deal.
No, I know it's a big deal, but I'm thinking, what are they trying to...
maybe recalculate the unemployment
rebase illegally? Because we're trying to rebase, actually.
It might also be a way, it's like kidnapping, right?
Yeah.
You kidnap and then you get ransom for that, in that sense.
By the way...
So you kidnap the website and say, you know what, if you want to get your website back, pay this amount. I know it's not funny, but that's another way to...
After all, we saw the ransom numbers by the... Are you sure it's not kidnappers that went after MBS? Because I remember it's MBS that released that number that said that 2023 May to April 2024, the amount people paid for ransom is over 2 trillion. So the ransom seekers have gone after the MBS.
After the MBS, right?
So MBS should disclose to us how much they have to pay.
The MBS can disown this website and build another website.
They actually just worked on it. So I think sometimes it happens in that process. Some things are lost, some people get access, or there's some sort of vulnerability. Just like a wall you get. So there's some vulnerability and then they get it.
All right, so...
most sought after websites in Nigeria, INEC website, MBS website.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful with, the security infrastructure.
So whatever
these websites.
Whatever report you've probably seen or downloaded within that space, please discountenance. And this is actually a major issue. It's a major issue, really, because it's data. Right?
It's our nation.
You don't know what has been messed with. So I imagine that MBS will do like a proper forensic audit and is able to identify.
Give us a report.
Because we don't want to be quoting. A lot of people, media houses will not go on MBS's website anymore.
Right now.
To get data.
Right now.
Yeah. Just like INEC had said, they had glitch that we don't understand till tomorrow. So we'll get to look at all of this. Okay, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you the very first conversation for the program. Join us again.
Let's talk about the budget. It's something we have stayed with, but this morning we're trying to pay attention to the sectoral allocations. After all, that's what a lot of people really want to see with the budget. What will this budget do to the health sector? What will this budget do to education? What will this budget do to my roads, infrastructure? And that list goes on and on. If they're not able to connect with it, then whatever has been done at the National Assembly or at the FEC will not really matter to them. And this program, we're joined by Professor Adeni Kinju, who's the president of Nigerian Economic Society, joining us virtually, as well as Dr. Mark Abani, coordinating dean at CITN Taxation Faculties, and Dr. Gospel Obele, an economist. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning.
I think we should just start with your opening comments. There's been a lot of narrative about the budget, 2025 budget, the president's speech at the National Assembly, but I'd just like to get your opening comments in 30 seconds. Your impression of this budget, and I'll start with Prof. Your impression of this budget, it's the biggest so far. Well, if you do the conversion, maybe not, but in Naira terms, the very biggest so far. So what's your first impressions, Prof? Prof, can you hear me? All right. I understand that we may have lost connection momentarily with Prof. So let me come to Dr. Abani and just get your opening comments. I know you're sitting from a different angle, but what is your first impression of that budget before we get deeper?
Very, very good morning to you and to all viewers. I will be looking at it from the taxation point of view, but also from the impact it has on people. In a word, I'd say this was an ambitious budget. This is an ambitious budget. Our expenditure seems to be extremely large, yet when converted back to dollars and run alongside international comparators, we still have a lot more expenditure to go in order to have a full impact. There are concerns about the funding of the budget, both from revenue sources, both internally generated revenue, but also revenue from oil. And there are some assumptions around the amount of oil that we're going to get per day, which are extremely ambitious. Having said that, one of the big concerns, of course, is deficit funding and making sure that money that is borrowed to fund that deficit is actually used to close and to deliver products for Nigerian people.
Right. So let's go over to Gospel. I'd like you to speak to us. Opening comments. We'll get to the sectoral allocations, defense, infrastructure, health, education, and the rest. But your opening comments, and I see that lots of countries are debating budgets. In the US, for example, there's a big debate in the UK. So speak to us about your first impression about Nigeria's budget 2025.
Morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me, Chance. Thank you, Kennedy. So very generally speaking, it's an ambitious budget. However, I'm not surprised by the nature of it, of that ambition, as the case may be, because globally now there's a fiscal challenge where nations have to do more. There's a call to do more in terms of public finance, in terms of government being more responsible for the delivery of public services. That's one. Number two is the fact that even Nigeria as a country where we are right now requires quite a lot of investment push to get the economy really, kick-started into where it's supposed to be in terms of on that trajectory towards prosperity. So I'm not surprised by the overall budget size of 47 trillion. I've always said it, that our budget sizes are literally significantly low over the previous years. And if you compare that to even the value of the Apple brand at almost 7 trillion naira, you realize that, that's almost double, of our current budget. However, the only part where I'm slightly worried about are the assumptions. I think the assumptions are not very realistic. For instance, the assumption that inflation will come down to 15%. I have not seen any time in the last decade that Nigeria has successfully halved inflation. Even nations where you've halved inflation, people are still strongly faced by the cost of living crisis, and there's still deep budget holes in terms of delivery of public services. So I don't think that's going to be very feasible, and I think that would, in a way, override many of the quality of the public finance and the budgetary expectations in terms of revenue and expenditure as we go on.
All right. We'll try to get Prof back in, but let's get deeper into this. And I'll come back to you, Dr. Abani. You've talked quite well about the way you're looking at it. I think a lot of people have issues with the assumption. Perhaps the government is saying something else we're not. But government might say it's an assumption. We're just trying to be as optimistic as possible, right? But let's look at the sectoral allocations. When you look at what the government, for example, spend on defense and security, 4.9 trillion naira. Infrastructure, 4.06 trillion naira. For health, 2.48 trillion naira. Education gets 3.52 trillion naira. When you look at this budget, do you think it speaks to our biggest challenges? Because there's a challenge of poverty, for example. There's a challenge of people still trying to earn a living, and they'll naturally call it difficulty, the hardship in the country. So is it loud on trying to fix that?
That's a very interesting perspective. In absolute terms, the figures have gone up for each of these areas. A year ago, when I was analyzing the 2024 budget, I spoke about the percentage allocated to security. Figures have gone up a little bit for the security, but the underlying insecurity drives the food prices. It drives the inability for us to get the millions of barrels of oil per day that is really required to fund a much larger envelope.
Oh dear.
Well, not to worry. I will reconnect with Dr. Bani any moment. It looks like it's one of those mornings. But Gospel, I don't know if you were going to go in that trajectory, but haven't seen the sectoral allocations. Do you think this budget or this appropriation bill, as it is right now, is loud on fixing that difficulty, the hardship that people are facing?
So, sorry, I missed that. The internet went a little bit.
Okay, please go ahead, Doctor. We lost you momentarily, but
okay.
It's good you're back, so you can go ahead, please.
Okay, that's fine. So when we look at, for instance, the impact on people's willingness to contribute to the way to fund this budget.
The internet is not very clement this morning. I wonder if it's being affected by the Harmattan. But let's go to Mr. Gospel. In the same breath, looking at sectoral allocation, I'd like you to take a look at education specifically, for instance. Is it meeting UNESCO's requirement for the 10% budgetary allocation of each annual budgetary allocation to transform the fortunes of the sector? And do you see it ending the annual challenge that we have with instability in the tertiary education sector and in the elementary and secondary education sector? Will it solve the deficit in infrastructure?
Thank you very much for the question. The conversation of allocations has always been on the table year on year, and to talk about trying to meet the UNESCO budget. Whilst I agree that that's a major component of delivering structural reforms, funding the structural reform, I also do not completely agree that that argument is complete in a sense, because technically, if you look at even the education sector as underfunded as it is, you want to then look at, are we even funding the right priorities within the sector? Because no matter the amount of money, you could do 10% of what of the budget as UNESCO has mentioned or benchmark, but you could still find a very failing sector, significantly failing sector. So the challenge for me, to quite frankly, it was so much about the allocations, as much as allocations are really important, but it's more around the quality of what the quality or the type of investments in that sector that those allocations are going into, and the quality of reforms in those sectors. So if your allocation, no matter how big or small, is not matching up to the quality of reforms that's required to drive development and significant progress in the sector, then no matter how much you put into the sector, it's still not going to deliver results. And that's been the major challenge in the Nigerian budgetary landscape. There's always a gap between, just like they try to fetch water with a basket, it cannot hold anything significant. There's always a gap between the amount of allocation there's been pumped into these sectors and the quality of the implementation, the quality of the sector spending, the quality of the reforms, and how those reforms actually translate into significant measurable progress in that sector as it ties into people's prosperity, as the case may be. Now, education and health are two quality indicators when you look at the Human Capital Development Index. But the type of reforms that are being required to deliver an improved HCDI in those two sectors are really less talked about within the budgetary landscape. In fact, what would be interesting to know is what exactly in education are we funding? All right, what priorities are we funding? What reforms are being looked at? So, in as much as I agree that there is an allocation size problem, I would disagree more because, take for instance, why does everybody have to write JAM, for instance? Why does everybody have to write JAM? The same new general mathematics that the average student in the South uses to study is the same new general mathematics that the average student in the North uses to study. It takes the mental prowess difference in both markets. I mean, I've taught in the North, I've taught in the South, and I've seen that it takes a longer time. Why can't we deliver some bits of our education in our local language? Everybody doesn't have to be in formal education. We can also use a form of significant strategic, best case informal education where people are well equipped with forward-thinking technology skills to drive change and productivity within sectors. So we need to begin to think of education and all that from a different context. Why does everybody have to write WAEC, all right, to make it to a tertiary institution? And even when people make it to tertiary institution, you still find that there's a case where people cannot find jobs. Employers generally have a challenge hiring for competence, all right? You realize that they want to hire for competence, but the process of hiring is actually certificate-driven. That's to tell you that broadly within the ecosystem, there's a strong educational reform that must happen. Enterprise education is another big deal, all right? So how are you dimensioning the priorities within the education sector such that because at the end of the day, funding is the last thing, quite frankly. I would think of the strategy, the reforms, and the priorities first before the funding. When you get all that right, the funding is just an instrument to be able to oil and deliver change at the level you want to see. So if there's so much focus around the allocation and there is less focus around the strategy, right.
Okay, you can land on your thoughts, so we can take the block. Just land on your thoughts.
If there's so much focus around the allocation and there's less focus around how the strategy and the priorities are being developed and weaved into significant human capital development, then we are not ready to really measure up in terms of impact and progress as a nation. So the budget sizes will keep going up. The allocations could go up in the near future, but you realize that the system is further weakening. JAMB is no longer relevant, in my own opinion. All right, so how are you ensuring that a rising teeming population of young people can find solace within the education? How is education relevant to young people? Parents do not even understand they are not commercially aware of the skill sets that their young adults need to thrive in the workplace. So they can't even make demands of the education sector. All right, so it's a deeply woven systemic mess that increase or decrease in allocation or a 10% allocation will not really fix. I don't even get what I'm trying to say. So that's where I start that really.
Okay, let's bring in the president of Nigerian Economic Society, Professor Adeola Adenikinju. He joins us via Zoom from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Prof, we would like your overview of the budget presented by the president, but I want you to speak specifically to whether or not, from what you see in terms of the numbers, the priority, and the activities of policymakers in the last 18 months, whether you are actually seeing focus on productivity and production that should generate wealth and create employment to be able to drive the economy to the direction we're going, because it appears what we see that the government is big on is optimization, basically ramping up what is within this space to get as more revenue as possible, not necessarily expanding the jobs as possible.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, in terms of job creation, in my view, it's basically for the government, to provide the enabling environment for the private sector to actually operate. There's so much really that government can do really in terms of job creation But then there are different types of incentives, different types of interventions that government can put in place to attract or to create jobs. But if you look at the environment, you will see that it's extremely very difficult, really, for the private sector to be very productive and therefore to be able to generate employment. So, you look at the issues around energy cost, still extremely very high. Inflation still extremely very high. The exchange rate, very difficult. So basically, and I think that's maybe what part of what the budget is trying to do. The budget proposal by the president, one, to see how some of the supply constraints in the economy can be actually addressed. One of them, issue of insecurity. Insecurity is a very major issue affecting productivity in Nigeria. It affects, it also has a bearing on inflation. So if there's a way we continue to lower that pressure from this security, I think that also enhance transportation, enhance free flow of goods and services, and inputs from the rural areas to the urban center. Government is also talking about infrastructure, spending big on infrastructure. Again, these are supply enhancing and enabling interventions that in the long term will have possible impact on firms' productivity and therefore ability to generate employment. So government should know basically that it is the private sector that we need to depend upon for job creation, and therefore the focus of government must be how to create that enabling environment for the private sector to be able to thrive.
All right. A lot has been said about the budget, about the priorities and assumptions being at variance with, the current economic realities. But perhaps, another thing that we should also be talking about is the budget size as against, what has been allocated to the key sectors that have to do with human capital development. Even though this 2025 budget presented nearly doubles what was presented last year. I'm coming to you now, Dr. Abani. Do you see that much priority in terms of allocation given to education, health, and all the other sectors that have to do with human capital development? Do you see that measure of priority? And as a result, should we be giving this budget any type of, should we be ambitious, should we be optimistic about the transformation of the fortunes of these key sectors in 2025?
I think we have to go back to the old saying, Rome was not built in a day. The sectorial sums, though higher than in previous years, come back to what has been said a bit earlier. It's how these interventions are used, how the money is used. There is more money going into education, but what is the quality of the education? Is the education fit for purpose? We're talking about a little bit more money going into health. How does that impact at the primary health care center, at the very lowest level? There's a lot of talk about local governments. The local governments are the interface between the people and government, and they have constitutional responsibilities for primary health care, for primary school education. How are we going to ensure that the little amounts that have been put there are adequately supporting the correct drivers, the correct development of materials required in both those sectors? Simple malaria, and I use the word simple very, very advisedly, is one of the major killers of young people in Nigeria that can be treated with quite a number of simple drugs, but people can't even gain access to the original drugs. So how is this money going to be applied? As I said earlier, people engage in the social contract based on security, Are they safe to move around? Is the amount of money going in there actually translating into safety of people to move around, into safety of farmers to access their product, which affects all of us in terms of prices, and which will be a major trigger in trying to drive down the inflation as is targeted, because food inflation is a significant part of the inflationary problems and is what is felt by the man in the street. Now, in terms of the infrastructure, it is clear from the amount that has been allocated to infrastructure that compared to our needs, it's woefully inadequate. Now, we understand that there are lots of public-private partnerships that will step into this space. The advantage of a public-private partnership is that you bring the disciplines and the project management control of the private sector into the disbursement of those funds for maximum impact. But if we want our children to be properly educated, even with the little money that is made available, we do need to make sure that the education is fit for purpose. We do need to make sure that we are driving primary health care very, very forcefully in order to make sure that we have a healthy citizenry. And these are the things that they will feel in their pockets. The out-of-pocket expenditure by a lot of households on health-related issues is a killer. Very many children don't go to school because there are additional costs of going to school, but one person in the family is sick and all of that money is being spent. So it's not so much the amount or the percentages, even though they have gone up, it is the quality of the interventions. That is the major reform that is required. That is what is going to be the key changer, and that is what is far more important than a sheer divvying up of the figures. Whatever little you have, how far do you make it go? I hope that makes some sense.
Oh, it did, absolutely. Let's bring in Dr. Obele on this one. And I want you to juxtapose a few things. The role of the National Assembly in ensuring quality oversight so that implementation trickles down to the persons and all of us down the line. Because as all of you have alluded to, from your perspective, spending is one thing, quality of spending is the next. And perhaps the reason why Nigerians always look at this and are just having perhaps budget presentation fatigue is the fact that we hear all of this money, sometimes we don't see it trickle down in terms of adequate impact. Now, given the fact that we're in the situation we found ourselves due to the twin policies of government. So if you were to advise assembly members on how to ensure this works, what will it be?
Well, it might be slightly challenging to advise the current assembly members because the strategic MDA bodies through which budgetary monies have been allocated or spent are very weak institutions generally. And outside just budget, you can see how even reforms within diverse sectors are being addressed or engaged because there was the institutions are really weak in terms of civil service, being able to take on government vision, aspirations for the people and translate that into executable action. So technically, if you have that level of weakness within the ecosystem, then the National Assembly may not be very effective in its oversight or in its expected oversight responsibility. I don't know if you get what I mean. So the first point of call for me will be that the National Assembly would have to, probably set up standards to hold the MDAs accountable in how these monies are managed and how and where these monies are pushed into. Again, that's faulty because our budget speech, our budget, our appropriation bill presentation and all that doesn't come with intelligent extra notes on where these monies are going to be spent, not even where, how, particularly how. What are we prioritizing? What are the metrics that we can use to measure impact? What do we expect from spending XYZ trillion naira in XYZ sector, in the next 1 year? So there are no clear defined, because when you have all that defined and clear, then the roles and responsibilities for oversight are then made clear, because you can then hold other people responsible based off on the standards or the metrics or the outcomes that have been defined already. So in my own opinion, I think that not only Nigeria, I mean, many cases in the world actually, the budgetary landscape has designed in such a way that there are leakages embedded within. So even the oversight function itself has a leakage, because we've not been able to identify what we're measuring, what the impact will be, what the outcome will be, and all of that. What's the theory of change around the budget? The budget is not an instrument. It's just an instrument. It has to be plugged into something, and that thing has to be measured in terms of its return on that investment and all that. So first and foremost, I would think that new standards have to be created. These priorities have to be defined. The outcomes, the impact, and all of those things have to be defined. And then once that definition is on the table, the House of Assembly can then have something to hold the MDAs accountable, because to a large extent those budgets will be delivered through the MDA framework and also through the state framework. So there will be something to then hold these institutions accountable on. And then maybe some form of capacity building, because we've done it again and again, and it looks like a templated style of delivery. That also impacts or hinders the impact on return on these budgetary investments. So I think the National Assembly, that the ecosystem needs to think about capacity building on fiscal expenditure and all that. Now, if you look at what I'm saying, it's just terminologies, but these are actual things that need to happen if Nigeria must advance with a budget which is budgetary use or use of budget to deliver development. Anything short than this, at the very minimum, will literally be same old story back and forth again, and nobody has details around implementation.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Belal. I'll go back to Professor Adenikinju now and speak to one concern we've seen time and again in this budgetary process. I mean, just this year, a senator was suspended, if you recall, Senator Ningi, for the padding allegations. And this is something we hear time and again, budget padding. And it's probably even more concerning because now the National Assembly, if they want to still maintain that cycle, has just, about 11 days or 10 days, depending on how you look at it, to go through this whole process. I'm not sure how much of rigor they're able to put into it in this short time frame. The executive says, well, they're relying on the trust, the mutual trust and relationship between the executive and the legislature to allow this sail through. But there still needs to be that kind of rigor. So is that a concern you have? What are your expectations from the National Assembly, seeing the time frame and that allegation of padding that has always dogged the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really very important that we start this process very early. That is very important. So that members of the National Assembly will have adequate time to actually look at the budget. I must mention that this problem is not just peculiar here. A few days ago, I was reading about the US. The budget, the current situation in the spending bill, over 1,000 pages, and they are worried how members were going to read that number of pages within 2 days of, try to prevent the shutdown. So basically, in the US, they have technical, staff that helped members of parliament, members of parliament to evaluate those budgets and then give them the key highlights. So it's very important that the National Assembly members are well equipped, that they get this proposal, budget proposal very early, so that they can do, they and their staff can do thorough analysis of the budgets, and therefore they're able to then provide important, discussions around the budgets, ensure that they look at every aspect to prevent key like you said, and like Nigerians are worried about padding and all kinds of negative input into the budget. So we cannot circle this process. It must start early. Members must be well equipped in the sense that they have the right staff who will be able to do a very dive-in analysis of the budgets and then give them proposals and give them some recommendations. And then there should be enough time to also allow members of the public, to also come in and also provide some input into what the budget, what the proposal is. so that eventually what is passed will be what approximate reality, and would best achieve the objectives of enhancing growth and improving the welfare of Nigerians.
Speaking of welfare, we may want to check on maybe welfare of another aspect of this budget. Further checks of the media reveals that the State House also earmarked 15.09 billion naira for the purchase of bulletproof vehicles, sports utility vehicles, operational vehicles, playing cars, and the construction of an office complex for the special advisor and senior special assistant. There's another 1.1 billion earmarked for the replacement of SUV vehicles and 3.66 billion naira for the purchase of State House operational vehicles. In total, all of this may just be amounting to more than 15 billion naira. What does this say about lessons learned in terms of prudence in our budgeting systems annually? Because we always talk about these portion of sums allocated to the management of the villa. Dr. Abani, I'd like you to take this one.
Of legislative oversight and our entire process. We treat each budget as a surprise. Oh my God, we've got 10 days, 11 days to go through all of this material. And yet these are the issues that recur from year to year to year. As Dr. Bale has said, the oversight committees of the National Assembly needs to actually bring together the lessons they've learned. What has happened? What happened with the last expenditure on the Vice President's personal residence? What has happened with those monies that were spent? Why have we spent only 85% of our budget that we were expecting to have? It still said it was not enough, and yet we haven't been able to spend. Is it because of the cash flow? Revenues seem to be fairly on course, or is it because of implementation issues? It's only by analyzing what we did last time and seeing whether there was any difference that we can start to hone down and say, this budgetary allocation here makes sense, doesn't make sense. What is it? Each of these figures, bulletproof cars, while some may see them as frivolous and expensive, other people it's a necessity, because if you lose some of the people due to insecurity, you actually create a lot more fractures in the system. So each of the pennies that you spend must pull a lever. They must drive something else. They must build on other things. And so I would like to think that the National Assembly actually thinks about the consequences. They've been talking to MDAs now about the consequences of not making returns of some of their expenditure and whether they will prevent them from getting their funds going forward. Right. Are there any real consequences? What exactly are the gaps there? Have we ever probed? Do we ever look carefully at how the service-wide aspect of the budget is 3-4% over the years? I looked back to 2015, and it's fluctuated between 2 and 4%. This is money that's used as a contingency reserve.
Indeed.
Is that spent first? What is it spent on? What are those particular things? So these lovely headlines of you spend X amount on a car, X amount on this, are all very good for headlines, but what are we doing year on year to make sure the same items are not coming back? If they're coming back, why didn't you buy it last time? If they are not coming back, then it's a different conversation. And this doesn't happen just for the presidential budget, doesn't happen just for the National Assembly. It happens for all of the key sectors. Is the money providing value for that money? And these processes do not need to be last minute.
And very important point, Dr. Bani. We see states also coming up with their budgets, some of them as well, record budgets, some more than even 1 trillion naira. A lot of work to do. We expect that the assemblies, but the National Assembly and the state assemblies, can at least do the right thing. By the way, there's the report of the Auditor General still lying fallow. Lots of threats given out, but nothing has been done. But we have to thank you so much. Dr. Mark Abani, Coordinating Dean, CITN Taxation Faculties. Thank you so much for your time, as well as Professor Adeola Adenikinju, President, Nigerian Economic Society. Thank you, sir. Dr. Gospel Obele, economist, we appreciate your time. All eyes on the budget still. We're not keeping our eyes on it. But for now, we have to anchor. Thank you once again for your time. We'll take a moment now on the show. And when we return, the tragedy in Ibadan has been getting our attention. And we'll dig deeper on the show to find out what exactly went wrong and what is going to happen in the coming hours. So stay with us.
The Yuletide has left a sour taste on our tongue because of what happened in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. 35 miners are no longer with us because a party was organized and things went bad, and those children are now dead. We really do not know the details. All we know is that there was a stampede as far as this is concerned. And so some of us were injured, but the city, the state is still in mourning. And that is why we're shifting our attention to find out exactly what happened, what went wrong. We're being joined in the program by Mr. Adewale Oshifaso. He's a police public relations officer in Oyo State. Mr. Adewale, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. So we've had different versions of the same event, but you are the police authority. You've done preliminary findings and investigations, perhaps, to give us a clear picture of how things went from excitement to this particular development we found ourselves.
Okay. Good morning once again. For us at Oyo State, we received the news, with so much sadness, because we understand that we are in the Yuletide period, and of course, this kind of season is characterized by fanfare, happiness, and gladness. Straight to it, on Wednesday, 18th December 2024, a children fanfare event was organized by Wings Foundation in concert with their media partners. The projected capacity of crowd that they expected exceeded, and a stampede ensued. As a matter of fact, the program had not even started properly when the process started, and sadly, we recorded as a command 35 miners, dying, and of course 6 being critically injured, and presently responding to various medical interventions.
Mr. Shifeso, help us understand how this stampede may have occurred, because it's of great concern to Nigerians about, how planning went wrong or inadequate planning was not put into this, what the venue looked like, that may have resulted in this, unfortunate incident.
Thank you very much. Investigations are in progress, though, but from the preliminary findings, it was discovered that at some point, the fare, because they were supposed to go in with a token, at least a minimal fee and all that, at some point, the prices were slashed, and later, some had the opportunities of going in free. So at some point, something must have gone wrong as regards some sort of agitation. In this case, when it comes to crowd control, anything could have triggered it. It could be excitement, it could be fear, it could be panic. And judging from the space, which at the end of the day, we discovered that the crowd that got into that place, which was not the originally planned number, could have also contributed to the stampede, because those going in actually did most of the damage to those already in the perimeter.
We understand that 5,000 people were expected, 7,500 showed up. Perhaps you can confirm that or not. It's been said that this same event has been organized in Ile-Ife, Osun State. The ONE released a statement to that effect. It's been organized in Ondo. It's been organized in Ogun State as well. now Oyo State edition is different. It's turned Orai now. So speak to us. Was there any sort of police presence there at all? Because the assurance that was given, and this was put online, is that there will be adequate preparation, to ensure order. So just to get a sense, was the police aware that this event was going to happen? Was there any sort of police presence there to begin with?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said when I started the chat, I was emphatic on the fact that investigations are ongoing. Now, this program, this whole crowd control Stampede thing started 3-4 hours before the program itself was supposed to commence. So it could have been as a result of people trying to force their way into the venue. As regards to the police presence and whether or not the planners did reach out to security or law enforcement, investigation is going to reveal that. We've expanded the course of the investigation because we need to know to what length, to what involvement every component of the planning committee that led to the event participated and how their roles and their involvement were in the playbook. But as we speak, investigation is ongoing to reveal each person's role as regards whether they were indeed invited, whether the police or whether other law enforcement agents were indeed contacted before running through the process, pre, during, or even after.
Sorry, my question is quite direct. Was the police informed prior to this? It's quite simple. Did they inform the police? Except you're saying that the police was not aware. You would know this without investigation because it's straightforward.
Like I said, sir, investigation would reveal if the police or other law enforcement agencies were contacted as regards the pre-process of the planning or even during and after. What we know as preliminary investigation findings is that program started 5 hours before it was supposed to. So what contributed was that a lot of people, most people that were involved in this particularly unfortunate incident, were trying their best to force their way into an already congested environment. So there's a lot that we need to clear. We won't come on air and give half facts or half truths. People need to know what has happened. That is what we're working on, sir.
All right, Mr. Adewale, I think it's it's difficult to accept your position. I don't think it's a hard question we're asking. It's as simple as ABC. Organizers are putting together an event, whether or not they invited the police, whether it's a unit of the police, a station, that record should be readily available. I don't think it's that difficult you don't need an investigation. That's what I'm trying to say. If the police was invited, the police was invited. If the police were not invited, they were not invited. It's not as complex as you're trying to make it. But perhaps you're just trying to be careful. I can understand. But if you want to respond to that, fine. But I don't think it's as difficult as you're making it look. If police was there, they were there. If they were not there, they were not there. If they were invited, they were invited. It's as straightforward as that. No investigation required for that. Second, we understand a couple of people have been arrested or taken into custody. Maybe you bring us up to speed as to who these persons are and what the police is looking at.
Okay, sir. First, I'd like to correct the assertion. Either whether the police has a statutory duty to go around on patrols to ensure that whenever they see unusual occurrences around them, they go there, they strike and check. But in this case, we are looking at the documentation process. Who wrote what, to who received what. So it is going to form the part of whatever reports that we will be giving out, because it's a big thing. It's a matter of human interest. Our lives were lost, and we will not come out on air to give half truth or what we are not sure about. Now, regarding the number of arrests, we have it, I can say categorically and emphatically that we've been able to have about 8 people in our custody. Now, 2 persons, the main event sponsor was invited the day the tragedy occurred, and she honored the invitation. She's with us as we speak. One of the major media partners actually contacted as well is still in coma, but we have police presence with him, and of course we've reached out to his legal representatives, and of course, we'll be having him as soon as he comes out of coma. We have 8 people, most of which are the planners, the event planners, and they are helping the police as we speak with their various involvements, in the planning process and what went wrong with the whole system that led to the death of 35 and 6 being critically injured.
So talking about the planner or the media partner of the organizers of the event, they have put out a statement. I wonder if it's the same media arm, but they've put out a statement to say that they only provided a media campaign for the party that went awry. Would you clarify the degree of their culpability to that extent?
Okay, not wanting to preempt the level of investigation and to what outcome it's going to come out with, we understand that that particular medium was used to push the agenda of the fanfare. That particular media outfit is very, very popular in Ibadan, quite popular and credible as well. It's more like a people, sensitive, friendly media outfit. So we are particularly involved, or rather reaching out to them based on the drive, because we also have it in good information that they were part of some of the planning process, apart from just the media push, which was written clearly in their press release.
It's really sad, and I can even tell from the tone of your voice that it's something that has affected even. I mean, the way you sound, it's understandable that this tragedy is a major one. 35 children. I know that you put out a statement where you called on residents not to panic, as they will witness high-level patrols and visible police presence to prevent hoodlums from taking advantage of the unfortunate situation. You might want to speak to that, because this is now a mix. I know security during Yuletide is always quite tricky. You have boys on the road, throwing what we call knockouts or fireworks. So there's always that charged atmosphere during Yuletide. I know there's always some extra deployment. So having this event happening yet again, I imagine tempers are flying or flaring rather. Some people maybe want to take action. So how tricky is the security situation, and what's the plan?
Okay, well, thank you very much. Just like you deciphered, it's a very sad atmosphere here. Everybody's a bit moody, but work has to go on. Regarding the high-level patrols and security intervention, this is Yuletide season. Oyo State Police Command has a tradition of being proactive. Before now, we had skirmishes of cult-related activities, which we had already mopped up. We made quite a lot of arrests, and we've been able to dislodge them out of Oyo State. And this whole fanfare thing, came up in the middle of the cult-related activities. We're trying to mop them up. And also, Oyo State has link ways. It's like a special highway where people come in for the Yuletide season. Now, you don't forget that Oyo State also has a large industrialization capacity. So before now, we've been proactive. We've been able to comprehensively secure the space to ensure that whoever is coming in for the Yuletide season doesn't have any cause to complain. And even residents would enjoy a huge level of relative tranquility that they've been used to. So we're saying we be deploying officers, people are going to witness high level, was because at that time, we had to control, one, the crowd, and we had to also ensure that hoodlums do not take undue advantage of the situation. Whenever we have incidents like that, the first line of deployment is for the forensic experts to wade in, see what they can get that can assist with the investigation. We also had to preserve the scene, that incident, for them to be able to do their work. And of course, residents know that when things happen like this, people will probably want to come, take charge, will want to create problems, crisis, and all that stuff. So we have to be proactive enough to have the deployment of our operational, tactical, and intelligence assets on ground to forestall any embarrassment. And we thank God it was successful. I mean, we received a whole lot of cooperation. People understood what we were out to do. And we are still in our own security business as it is.
Okay, it's great the preparation that is going on in the city, but let's begin to look at some of the perhaps the challenges the police is facing in the state to be able to do their work more efficiently and effectively. I've seen governors say they're basically chief logistic officers of the state, of the police in different states. They are not chief security officers. So what's the relationship between the governor and the police command in that particular state, as well as the level of, what do you call it, equipment and things that the police need to be able to do their work efficiently and effectively as we need to wind down?
Okay, well, in Oyo State, we've been blessed to have a huge level of cooperation from the government. The state governor has been wonderful as regards having a firm understanding of what the business of security entails and what it should be. Like we've had periods where we've received vehicles, logistic equipment, communication equipment, and sometimes when we have special duties, the governor and of course his government will always be generous, to reach out to our men, having been posted at different parts of the state to ensure that the peace and tranquility maintained. So whenever they go out like that, the governor reaches out to them, maybe rations and things like that. And the moral support is fantastic. He calls, he goes out, he encourages, and of course, we as law enforcement people, knowing fully well what the Constitution entails and demands of us, it's a boost for the command, and I guess that's one of the reasons why the relative tranquility in Oyo State is enviable, even amongst its peers.
Let's talk a bit more about the challenge that the Oyo police is facing in terms of cultism. You say that, the police command has mopped it up significantly, but it appears there's a reoccurring problem in Oyo Ibadan, to be precise. In about 2016, the challenge was with the 1 million boys. But now, there are reports about air confraternity and all of that involved in rival cult clashes, initiation ceremonies. Is the command considering a different approach beyond, the use of force to rein in on this challenge of cultism in Oyo State?
Okay, thank you very much. It is important to note that Oyo State has a high level of institutions located in it, the universities, the polytechnics, and of course other private institutions there. So what we know is that this process of cultism has evolved. It's not the same one way back where everything starts and ends in the schools. These people have developed vices through which they've been able to equip locals. They have people that get and scamper for information for them. They have people that source information for them. They have handymen amongst them. So what we have done as a command is first to expand our advocacy and campaign reach. We are working with the Nigerian Police Forces Focus Curve. We call it the Police Campaign Against Cultism and Other Related Vices, headed by CSP, PC, Okwobi, to come around and, of course, mentor some of these guys that have renounced and see how we can ensure that it becomes unattractive for intending, members. In Oyo, what happened recently was just a simple case of retaliations and a drive to show supremacy. We caught wind of this through investigation, and we've been able to infiltrate and we've been able to arrest the major culprit.
All right. Apologies, we're totally out of time, but just before we let you go, how soon should we be expecting the outcome of that investigation?
As soon as it's ready. It is a matter of public concern now, and I'm sure the presidency is even involved as well. They are interested, and we know that we have to do due diligence, and that is what is being employed as we speak. As soon as it comes out, channels will be the first to get it.
Thank you. We appreciate you, and our thoughts and our prayers are with you and everyone in Oyo State. Shifeso Adewale is the PRO of the Police Command in Oyo State. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you another leg of the conversation, something Exciting. Join us again. Well, let's move on to something fashionable. Adepoju Simbiat joins us. She's the CEO of Simbiat Vogue. Okay, that's a tricky one. There's Simbiat and there's Simbiat. She's also a fashion and style icon joining us from the United Kingdom. Simbiat, thank you so much for coming on the program. Can you hear me? Oh dear, if you can hear me, maybe unmute your device so you can talk to us. Oh dear. Okay, she's actually joining us from the UK to talk about the things that... okay, I understand she can hear us now. So welcome to the program, Simbiat.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So I want to be clear. Your name is Simbiat, and you're the CEO of Simbiat. Is that correct?
No. My name is Simbiat. I'm the CEO of Zima Vogue.
Zima Vogue. Okay.
Yeah, Zima Vogue. That's it.
So let's begin with the season. So now that we're clear on that, let's begin with we're counting down to Christmas, about 5 days to Christmas. When I was younger, and there's a lot of buzz about Christmas dress, Christmas clothes, and all of that. Now I'm an adult, I'm a man. I don't think I care much about that. I just want to know how much is in my bank account. That's what is of interest to me at the end of the day. But if you were to talk about Yuletide fashion and how to explore it to really reflect the season, what will it be before we get to the nitty-gritty of what you do?
I would say to talk about like fashion right now, I feel like basically just you showcasing yourself. It doesn't have to be extra, especially being an adult. You don't want to, like when you were a child, you want to go with the glitters, the extravagant. Now you just want something simple and just, I feel personally for me, it's just as long as I get to celebrate with my family, anything simple is fine for Christmas. Only if you're an extravagant person, so that's what I would say.
Okay, so let's talk about fashion for the children. I'm sure you're all booked out this season and you're not taking any more fabrics, right?
No.
Okay, so talk to us about the appropriate fashion for the children this season and, what it's been like for you so far.
For the children this season, I would say, because right now I'm in the UK and Nigeria, I would say growing up, and I think that's still in vogue, having a ball dress for a girl, that's like number one thing. You want to have a ball dress, that's number one thing. A bow, a bow headpiece. And for the boys, you want to have like two-piece, even right here in the UK. And growing up as well in Nigeria, you can actually infuse a bit of the Ankara. It doesn't have to be the Western, ball dress. You can have like the Ankara ball dresses, and something colorful. That's very, very important. Go with the Christmas colors, the red, the green, the gold, and just explore. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So Christmas clothes is still a thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's good to hear, right? Because I thought you had phased it out.
As well.
But let's talk about your work. Doing fashion in another climate. You're doing Nigerian African fashion, infusing it with what you find there. But basically, you are in a different climate. And I wonder just how challenging that is, or you found that. And you also sing, right? Am I correct?
I used to sing.
You used to
not
sing?
Anymore.
So
yeah.
She's a retired singer. You're retired,
I don't want
right?
to talk about that now. I'm retired now.
I like that. So it's good to see how you transition. And I've heard you say that you inherited fashion, but speak to us about how you're able to do your thing in a different context in that sense. I know it's a global village, but hey, the intricacies are different sometimes.
Yeah, to be honest, it's challenging. It was really challenging. Now it's better because coming down to another country with a different cultural, the way they think, the weather, you have to think about, as long as you're trying to maintain your brand and identity, you want to produce clothes that would suit your customers. You have to think about the weather, you have to think about the cultural diversity, what you would wear here. You can't, like this period now, for example, this is a winter period, and you can't think, oh, I want to make an Ankara dress in the UK this time. You want to think about what would suit the weather and what would suit your customers. But then you still want to maintain your brand identity. That's number one. Number two is the time. Here you have less time to produce. And when I first got here, it was really difficult for me to still, maintain my my job and maintain my business. The balancing was really hard. And you know what they say about funding, you need to fund your dreams. So I have to have like another side job. And it took time. It took me time to be able to rebrand and adjust my brand to suit the culture here. For example, we launched the winter collection recently, and one of the clothes we launched is the varsity jacket. It's not like we don't wear varsity jackets in Nigeria. We do, but you don't find it as common as you find it here. So I had to think with my team, what would suit here and what would suit the weather and the culture here. Let's still maintain the brand identity. And one good thing is that here, they love to tap into the African culture. They love the Ankara. And as long as you can get like the details, so that's one good thing that makes it easy, when you're transitioning. Yeah, so it's been challenging in terms of also marketing, getting, customers, or like where you grew up, you can get your first customers can be your family and your friends. And here it's just like, I'm just getting to know these people. How would they, why would they buy my brand? You've got more competitions like the bigger brands. They can actually just walk into malls here and buy clothes. So why should they buy my brand? What's the value I'm giving to the customers? And you want to make it affordable as well. So it was, but so far so good. We've been, scaling through and we've been seeing progress. So thanks to God for that. All
right, Symvia, let's talk about commercial viability. I know you've done things in Nigeria, you've done it in the UK, you're doing it in the UK. Just be very sincere. Who pays better? Who is more customer base,
Customer, I would say in the UK, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they pay better because
is it because of the exchange rate? Or
yeah, the exchange rate.
Okay.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean better. It's just that their money is just an adult. Ours is just...
They pay better, to be honest. Yeah, I can't lie. They do. So it's not bad. It's not bad. And you have to look at your production cost as well. It's more expensive compared to production cost back in Nigeria. In Nigeria, you can just go to Oshodi Market and just get... I don't know how much they would sell Ankara fabric now, or would sell like lace or ashoke or just normal crepe. But here it's more expensive. So it makes it more, when you want to sell, like when selling here, imagine I'm selling my product, fine, I sell in Nigeria as well, but it would be more expensive for a person in Nigeria to buy because of the, the price and the production cost that has gone into it. So yeah, it pays better here, but we're still trying to make it more affordable for everybody globally. So despite the exchange rate.
So are Saturdays like the Owambe Saturdays, that we have in Nigeria? Is it the same for you in the UK? And if you consider the volume of work that you had to deal with when you were in Nigeria, is it the same experience, for the Saturday Owambes in the UK?
I wish, but no. Like, it is so different. When people make Owambe, when I make Owambe for my client, it's always like special. Owambe, when you live in places like London, Birmingham, Manchester, you have the aunties that go to the Owambe. It's quite different, and that's like Saturday, Sunday. But compared to Nigeria, the rush is like, you've got more customers. That also I had to think of another way to still make money and not just making custom made dresses like Owambe, because it's quite different here. In fact, we had a party recently at the Nigerians in UK. They had to organize an Owambe because people were missing Owambe parties. It's quite different. I miss Owambe parties. I miss the vibe.
See, so there's something we have as an advantage at the end of the day. Their dollar or their pounds rather may be bigger, but can't compare to Owambe and our jollof. No, it doesn't come close at all. But just one question, 30 seconds before we move on. I've been curious, why do women like pain and fashion all in one fell swoop? Because men try to understand that. Help us out. They want to snatch the waist. They're uncomfortable, they can't breathe, but they keep going. Just help us. I'm asking on behalf of men, because we're just uncomfortable that they're uncomfortable, but they are not uncomfortable that they're uncomfortable.
Number one, pain is beauty. And I remember some of my customers would tell you, I want it snatched. I don't mind if I can't eat, as long as my waist is snatched. You want to look good. You want to, have everything appropriate. So it's not just for the men. It's for us. Speaking for the women, it's just for us to look, great. And your whole one vector has to be perfect.
Okay, maybe we'll keep our concern to ourselves. I will not be looking at Bukola like that. So no problem. At this point, she's in fashion. And she's in the fashion industry in the UK. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you as well for having me.
Now that we've got that clarity, Bukola, so whatever you want to snatch is fine by me. No problem. I'm not going to show any concern because, you're accommodating. But let's now throw it to Kayode, who is standing by to bring us...
Jeffrey, I don't have any answer for you.
But let's now throw it to Kayode, who is standing by to bring us...
Jeffrey, I don't have any answer for you.
I don't expect you to respond, by the way. Kayode is absolutely...
I don't know what's snatching in this one. Speaking of snatching, guys, people have had challenges getting their WhatsApp snatched. Right? One moment you're using your WhatsApp, you get a link, you click on it to join a vigil or to do something, and the next, your WhatsApp is no longer yours. It's been snatched. So let's talk about that snatching this morning. How do you keep your WhatsApp safe? How do you ensure that your personal messaging application remains yours for life and you don't have someone asking other people to pay into a certain account just so that you can get it back? We have Akin Bitoye joining us on the program this morning as a tech advisor, and we're getting into that very important conversation, steps to secure your WhatsApp and basically all the other messaging apps that you use. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So this is the snatch we were talking about. The whole snatching is different.
Yeah.
But let's walk through it because we've had these cases. You just get a random message, people asking you, I'm stranded, please send money to this account. And you're like, okay, this is my friend, let me send money. And then you get a message or a call from the person saying, please do not send money to any person.
I've been hacked.
Exactly, I've been hacked. So walk us through, because this is a major concern, particularly for the older ones, right? Our aunties, our uncles and grandmothers, and even the younger ones. Okay?
Exactly.
How do we ensure that our WhatsApp remains our WhatsApp?
Okay, so with over 2 billion users, it's rife for hacking and people hijacking other people's WhatsApp accounts. First thing you want to do is create an extra layer of security. I think we spoke about this last week. Is 2FA, second factor authenticator. It just means when you open your WhatsApp or you want to log into your WhatsApp, it will ask for another code. That's the second factor authenticator. It's usually a 6-digit code. What it means is if someone does gain access or unauthorized access to your WhatsApp, they need to enter that code. And if they don't know it, your messages are safe. For individuals, you may not have something very, something of high value. But for businesses, for organizations, it's very critical to have this enforced. So what you would want to do is to go to settings and activate the 2FA, second factor authenticator. Second thing you would want to do is never send any code you receive, OTP, one-time password. You just see a code displayed on your WhatsApp, then someone calls you, oh, the meeting we're having in the evening, so that's the code, send to me. Yeah, you know the best time to do this? Early in the morning.
Oh, really?
Oh, you are still groggy, you're not fully awake, or late at night when you are really tired. That's when someone just calls you up and says, oh, the meeting, no, I don't want to miss the meeting, or there's a training you paid for, or something you're expecting. So it's very important not to share OTP code, one-time password code, with anyone. It's very important. The third thing I would mention is, most times you hear, so company is giving giveaway, end of the year. No, they don't. No, they don't. And of course, when you see the link, you would see the name of the company. You see something like HTTPS, the company name, .something, some random numbers, but it's a lie. The real address is at the end, whatever the website is .com, but usually it will end with something scam.com. But because you've seen the name of the company purportedly doing the giveaway, you would click on the link. Clicking on that link does two things. One, it installs malware. That's these programs that they use to hack on your phone or your laptop or your tablet, your devices. So do not click on any link if you did not apply for a giveaway. Why do you want to claim
we love giveaways, don't we?
I hope they run belle.
Right?
I heard that this morning.
Exactly.
So it's very important to take note, activate 2FA. Second, do not share the one-time password with anyone. Third, do not click on links that you did not apply to. Very key.
Interesting.
And this does not just apply, to WhatsApp alone. All your messaging apps now give you the ability to activate second factor authenticator.
Very important, whether it's Telegram or even your normal social media apps.
All of them.
Right? Ensure you do that. And this is something we've talked about a lot. But it looks like there's still some sort of lethargy, or people don't just quite see a need for it. So you still realize that till yesterday, people's WhatsApp are still being hacked. So when it is hacked, because these things might still happen.
Oh, yes.
What are the options available to you? I've had to chat with a hacker back and forth, and the person was asking me, pay this amount if you want this back. And it was like a bargain, because I had to come clean and say, you know what? I know this is a hacker. I don't ask for money. I know this person will never ask me for money, but what would we do to get it back? And the person was saying, give us this amount. And the owner was trying to get in, but then it was a very messed up situation. So what are the options available?
Okay. With 2 billion users, you can't provide support for all of them. Even Meta knows this. How many people's calls would they pick to attend to you? So what they've done is they've automated the process. When you get hacked, if you get hacked, let me not say when. If you do get hacked, your WhatsApp gets hacked, what you want to do is, of course, try to log in. Then, because the hacker is also trying to log in, you are trying to log in, the system locks you out first for 6 hours.
Locks everybody out. We don't know who is who, right?
Exactly. I'm not sure who the owner is. So it locks you out for 6 hours. After that, it locks you out for 24 hours. Then it locks you out for 7 days. So what you'd want to do is, if you're a high-value target, just be sure that the hacker is constantly on your case. If you're not a high-value target, which means you really don't have, you are not a media personality, for example. Yes. So you would want to stay awake till they count. I kid you not.
That was actually what happened with the person.
Yeah. You have to wait till the countdown gets to 0, then you try to sign in. However, if you have your email address, when you're setting up the 2FA, you need to enter your email address. It will send a code there, then you verify that you are the owner of the email address. Then you can reset your WhatsApp by requesting for a code in your email address. Because you use your phone number for WhatsApp, they cannot send code to the same number that has been hacked.
Certainly.
Do you understand? So the email is your go-to. If, however, the hacker has activated 2FA, because now they are also getting smarter. So you don't have 2FA, the hacker hacks your WhatsApp, now sets up second factor authenticator. Even if you do log in, you do not know that code. That's where your email address comes in.
So if you're listening to this right now, go to your favorite social media app, messaging app, and activate 2FA, two-factor authenticator.
Yes.
I mean, do this so you don't have to go through this, because it was very messy, as I told you. And I think it raised another point, which is the fact that it looks like the authorities have not gotten a handle on this just yet. Because what happens is these hackers send you a particular account number and tell you to pay into it. I don't want to mention the service provider, but I think we all know some of the service providers. Tell you to pay into it, and people think, isn't it easy to just get to, that account, know who the account is for, and then catch the person? But I have never seen so far, and I've seen cases of the perpetrators being caught. So what does that say about the authorities? Are they lagging behind as well?
It's global. Legislation lags technology, because technology moves at the speed of thought. Remember 10, 15 years ago, you rarely hear cases of BlackBerry Messenger being hacked. Why? That was Research in Motion. That's the company created BlackBerry. That was their entire business model, security. And the BBM Messenger only works on the BlackBerry device. But portability of technology is also its biggest weakness. You can take it from here to there. And in the middle, somebody can just slalom in there and get you. We have man-in-the-middle attacks. I mentioned last week that what you want to do is have defense in depth, have multiple layers of security. What we as humans like is convenience. You don't like entering password. All you want to do is just open your WhatsApp. So why do I have to enter password every now and then? So you just remove the password.
It's my own, right?
It's when somebody enters the house and carry it. like, hey, so can you help me? Oh, yes, I can. Please just activate 2FA. This is free.
Right.
Activate second factor authenticator. You would save you a lot of stress.
There you go. So ultimately, it's our responsibility. But we have to thank you so much, because I think it's important to reiterate these points. A lot of people forget that these are the things that get you in trouble. By the way, quickly, in terms of setting up passwords, I know there's always this back and forth. Can I use the same password for all of my different accounts because of ease, right? So can I use the same password? What is the element of a very good password? As a tech person, is it advisable? And just so you don't forget, can I write my passwords down? Or really, what's the hack for password setting?
Short answer, no.
Don't use the same password.
Don't use the same password. Long answer, I mentioned this last week, that a good password should not include your name, your son's name, your daughter's name, your spouse's name, just your birthday. Please do not. And of course, your password, yes, it's difficult to remember. But remember, we used mnemonics when we were younger. If you're trying to remember a string of things and you don't remember, you just turn it to a song.
I see.
Yes, like Mr. Niger D. That's how you remember. Yeah, that's the characteristics of living things.
I remember.
Exactly. So
all of a sudden, I'm back in school.
Now you're good. Now you're good. So that's what a good password will do for you. You can just use the first letter of your favorite phrase. Please, instead of using I, you can use 1. You can use exclamation mark. So you substitute that in your head, it becomes easier to read. Please, you don't have to remember all your passwords. Write them down. Then, of course, someone raised this snag that, okay, if you write it down, then somebody can get access to it. Exactly. But when you're writing it down, you can omit certain letters. You are the one that know what you're omitting. That is cryptography. See, technology, whatever is digital can be hacked.
It's funny.
I don't mean to scare you, but whatever is digital can be hacked. The truth. However, whatever is in here cannot be hacked.
Can hardly be hacked, at least for now.
No, it cannot. Oh, yes. Thank you. You're already going futuristic.
I remember when we were using...
You're already futuristic.
Exactly. When we were using Nitel, there was nothing for password. You just pick up your phone, you go... There was nothing for any message.
I would like to say this. The advent of artificial intelligence has made the job slightly easier for hackers and malicious actors.
Really?
Yeah, so cracking a password has never been easier.
Akin Bitoye, tech advisor, thank you for reminding us of the world we're in right now. It's great to know that at least you can protect yourself as much as possible. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So there you have it. You're welcome. Activate the 2FA right now, okay, if you haven't done that just yet. But we'll take a break. And when we return, we'll bring you something very interesting. Call this person a prodigy. I will be wrong. As for the moment, stay with us.
Motorola Emmanuel, 6-year-old young chap, musical genius. He not only plays the keyboard, Motorola also plays the drum set. He's just 6 years old. And Motorola is not alone on this segment. We'll also have amazing Zara Ajetumobi. Zara is 13 years old and she's a sustainability advocate and founder of a book club that has assembled about 1,000 members from different countries of the world. She has visited many countries of the world to speak. She was a speaker at COP28 and has in fact been opportune to meet Mr. President. Hello, Motorola. Hello, Zara. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Fine.
How's mommy and daddy?
Awesome.
Awesome, I like that. And Zara, how are mommy and daddy?
They're doing well, thank you.
Very well. Let me start with you, Motorola. You're just 6 years old and you play the keyboard so well. How did you discover this gift? How did you know you could play the keyboard?
My daddy taught me how to play the keyboard when I was 4.
4? Just 4?
Yes.
And how long did it take you to learn?
Only when I was 4.
Okay, I get that. But how long did you practice, and then how long was it? Were you able to come to to this level of perfection?
You've been playing since you were 4, right?
Yes.
So you now you play, like, do you play every day?
Yes.
You play every day?
Yes.
Yeah? In the house? Oh, okay, in the house. So you have your keyboard at home?
Yes, and also have in the office.
Oh, you have in the office? You have an office?
You have an office?
Yes.
So you're a CEO of a company?
No. No.
Okay.
So where else do you play, Motorola, apart from home?
Do you play in church? Do you play in...
I play in church.
Oh, really?
I play in programs.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
How do you enjoy playing? How do you enjoy playing? How does it make you feel when you play?
Make me feel happy.
Make you feel happy. Okay, we're going to come to you in a moment because
all right. We'll come back to you, Motorola. And you're going to play something else for us.
He likes to play. He doesn't like talking, apparently. So we're going to stick to what you like, right? Good job. Good job.
Okay, hello, Zara.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, sir.
It's good to have you on the program. Now, I've watched you speak. I've seen your videos, and I can't believe that you're 13, by the way. So I'd like to get an insight into what mommy and daddy did differently, to make you acquire this level of knowledge that you have, and the amazing ideas that you've come up with, to become a sustainability advocate.
So my parents have played a big role in shaping me as a person and helping me do what I do, because they are intentional in their parenting, which means that they carefully look at their actions and how they can help me or help my siblings develop. So the one thing that they do a lot is that they incorporate reading into our daily lives. They spend time with us, because spending time with their children has an impact on their brain, like fostering that loving connection between our whole family has helped me a lot. And also they've made a safe space for me to share my ideas and thoughts, and that's how I was able to discover my talent.
Your parents deserve an award. So shout out to mommy and daddy. So let's talk about why you chose the SDG. Tell us about that.
Okay. When I was 9, I remember in school we had a lesson about pink farms. And pink farms was a recent discovery or invention then in the UAE, because that's where I live. I live in Dubai. And because we have a very harsh climate, it's so hard to grow crops. So they came up with the invention, which was pink farms, and the seeds would be stacked vertically, and they would be, UV light would be, I don't know the word.
Directed?
Yeah, directed upon those seeds.
Yeah. So
after that, they would grow faster compared to if they were grown in the desert. And when we had the lesson, we had a lesson about that. Then at the end of the lesson, the teacher put up a slide of the SDGs, and the SDGs are colorful. I was like, wow, what is this rainbow? So the teachers told us to pick one SDG and relate it to the lesson. When I got home like this, I was so curious, and I went and did my research on the SDGs, and I could not stop talking to my parents about them. Mom, do you know this about SDGs? Mom, do you know that about SDGs? And it got to a point where they realized that, no, this is something else. She is interested in sustainability, and we should support her. So that's where my love for SDGs began.
Fantastic.
So tell us about your meeting with Mr. President, and what did you get from that experience?
In 30 seconds.
Okay, so I entered the room, And before that, my body was shaking. I was 12, like meeting the president of Nigeria. Then, as I went to the room, I saw him there. I walked. I greeted him. I explained to him what I do. And he looked at me, he smiled and said, "This is the future. Amazing, amazing."
Great. So, you are the future. Both of you are the future. You're like my guy. You don't like talking so much, right? So, when you grow up, what do you want to be? A musician, a doctor? What exactly?
Or an SDG advocate. Oh.
You want to be a footballer?
Yes.
So you play football?
I used to play in school.
You learn to play in school?
Yes.
It's like you just like creative work.
Have you scored goals?
Have you scored goals when you play football with your boys, with your friends?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So, okay, what wing do you like to play? Are you a defender? Are you a goalkeeper? Are you a striker? Are you a midfielder? What is that?
Sometimes I'm a player, sometimes. Sometimes I used to be goalkeeper.
Okay. So you played, so you're a footballer, you're a drummer. You play the drum, right?
Yes.
And you play the keyboard.
Yes.
Fantastic. So that's you
that's
playing.
Motorola playing.
That's you playing in school. Fantastic. So, as I said, you're my guy. Leave Bukola and our SDG advocate for one moment. So you're going to go back and play us something in like 30 seconds. Anything. Just play anything. We're going to come to you, Zara. Trying to play the keyboard for a long time until I gave up. I am happy we have a future. Thank you.
Even Zara is amazing.
Zara, two of you, incredible. Both of you, look, when we look at both of you, we're excited. You know why we're excited? Because the future, just like the president told you, is in safe hands.
And speaking of the future, Zara, as we wind down, you are an SDG advocate. What do you see, particularly about the administration that demonstrates the commitment to the SDGs?
So, do you mean a future?
Yes.
Like about SDGs?
Yes, to actualizing the Sustainable Development Goals.
And what we have to do to actualize them.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be involved, because at the core of sustainability is the belief that the whole world should be stabilized and rooted in sustainable concepts. But that cannot happen unless you and I, or we, understand sustainability and understand how to incorporate it into our societies. So how can we incorporate that? How can we make people understand the fundamental concepts of sustainability? Through education. So there are so many ways that we could educate ourselves and people could educate themselves on sustainability.
It's just that I trust your parents. That's how I would have asked, are you really 13? But it's okay.
Would you like to see her birth certificate?
No, it's fine. No, I believe so. Because she's very articulate, she's very deliberate, and Kayode Joyce.
But here's what we'd like to do as we wind up. We have just about 30 seconds. Great job, guys.
Great job.
I love it. Is there a Christmas tune that you want to play for us as we wind down on the show this morning?
Motorola.
Any Christmas tune do you have? Anything for Christmas?
You want to play that, Mary? Did you know again? Do you want to play that?
Wish you a Merry Christmas. Do you have anything? Please help me out.
Oh, yeah, play. waiting, Lord.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Oh, what a way to end the show today.
Amazing.
Fantastic work, guys. We wish you the very best. Thank you for inspiring us. You actually inspire us.
Yeah.
We need to bring her back, by the way, so she can really talk about this a lot more, because we didn't have so much time to explore your mind, but we need to bring you back, whether you're living in Dubai or wherever. We know you're all over the world. And you, we're inviting you to our Christmas, Abby.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you said.
You're coming to our Christmas show.
Amazing.
All right? Would you like to come?
I'm going to give you a
Fantastic.
hug.
Fantastic.
Put it right there.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much,
All right. High five.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Bukola.
Amazing. The Christmas is only just starting. Of course, we have bumper packages for you in the coming days. Thank you so much for watching. Join us again next week when we'll bring you another round of bumper Christmassy editions.
There are 2 bumpers.
Yes, sir.
Goodbye. I'm Kairu.
Bye-bye. I'm Jeff Ruzon.